Monday, 11:18 a.m. The bell above the door chimed as sunlight spilled into Barker's Market, that familiar grocery on the corner of Maple and 3rd, a mainstay in Oak Ridge, Georgia, for nearly 50 years. The aroma of fresh-baked bread mingled with the lemon cleaner, a scent as constant as the shelves themselves. Tyrone Barker, son of the founder and now co-owner, stood behind the front counter arranging jars of his grandmother's peach preserves, nodding at regulars as they came in. He wore a simple flannel shirt and jeans, his presence warm but quietly commanding. On aisle 3, Keisha Barker, his wife of nearly a decade, and the unspoken heart of the store, was arranging cans with the care of someone who took pride in every detail. Keisha, with her radiant skin and natural curls, pulled into a neat puff, exuded an easy confidence. She wore a bright yellow apron with Barker's Market stitched in cheerful red, her smile greeting each customer like an old friend. Kids gravitated toward her, elders respected her word, and everyone who knew the market knew her touch kept it running smoothly. The morning rush was easing when the front door swung open with force. A tall, middle-aged white woman entered, the sharp click of her heels echoing on the linoleum. Her hair was helmet-stiff and blonde, sunglasses perched high on her head despite the overcast sky. She scanned the store, a sneer forming before she spoke a single word. "Excuse me," her voice cut across the aisles like a knife. "Can someone get me some real help over here?" Heads turned. Shoppers looked up from produce and breakfast cereal, pausing in mid-step. In the far corner, Darnell, the store's cashier, a stocky black man in his early 20s, fidgeted with the register, glancing at Tyrone, then at Keisha, waiting. Keisha didn't hesitate. She set aside her clipboard and approached the woman with a practiced, welcoming smile. "Good morning. Is there something I can help you find today?" The woman's blue eyes narrowed, her lips pursing as she assessed Keisha from head to toe. "I said I needed help. I'm looking for someone in charge," she replied, her tone dripping with condescension. "Not you." The store fell a notch quieter. In the bread aisle, a young black girl named Aaliyah, maybe 10 or 11, clutched a box of cereal to her chest and edged closer to her mother. Keisha, not missing a beat, replied, "I can assist you. I'm one of the owners here, and I know this store inside and out." The woman bristled. "Well, I'd prefer to talk to someone who actually works here. The manager or the owner, if that's not too much to ask." A hint of a smile flickered on Keisha's face, one part resignation, one part resolve. "I promise, ma'am, you're talking to the right person." "I doubt that," the woman said, loud enough for 3 other customers to hear. "I come here every summer, and this is the worst service I've ever seen. Back in my day, people knew how to treat customers." Keisha, still calm, gestured down the aisle. "Is there a product you're looking for in particular?" The woman looked at Keisha as if she hadn't spoken, turning to address the room at large. "Can anyone else help me? Anyone? Or do I have to deal with this person?" A hush descended. Darnell, behind the counter, glanced down at his phone. He opened TikTok, fingers trembling as he pressed record. He'd seen these stories online. He knew how quickly moments like this went viral. Keisha's voice softened but grew firmer. "Ma'am, I can help you, or I can get my husband, who's also the owner, if you prefer." The woman crossed her arms, her voice rising. "You people think you can just do anything these days. I'm not spending a dime here until you get her away from me." A customer in a Georgia Bulldogs hoodie, Leon, watched from the frozen food section, shaking his head. A black teenager, Jasmine, pulled out her phone, whispering to her Instagram followers, "This lady wilding out in Barker's. Watch this." Keisha took a breath, keeping her composure. She'd been here before in one form or another. Classrooms, offices, even at her own wedding, when Tyrone's distant cousin made a scene about mixed unions. She'd learned to turn other people's prejudice into something quiet but unbreakable inside her. Tyrone, who'd been stacking a display of sweet potatoes, saw the commotion and walked over, wiping his hands on his apron. "Is there a problem?" he asked, his deep voice carrying the weight of authority. The woman pivoted, eyes narrowing further. "Yes, there is. I'm trying to get some service, and your staff has an attitude. I want her gone. Now, before I spend another dollar here." Phones were up everywhere now. Jasmine's Instagram Live had gone from 20 to nearly 200 viewers in the time it took for the woman to utter her demand. The chat exploded. Did she really just say that? Barker's Market isn't playing. Let's see what happens next. Keisha stood next to Tyrone, shoulders squared. Tyrone met the woman's glare with a stony calm. "Ma'am, my name is Tyrone Barker. I'm the owner. And this woman you're talking about? She's my wife. She's my business partner. She's the one who runs this place." A gasp ran through the store, sharp, audible, like a wave breaking. The woman's mouth dropped open, disbelief etched in every wrinkle. "That's impossible," she stammered. "I've been coming here for years. This has never happened before." Darnell's camera panned from the woman to Tyrone and Keisha, capturing every detail, the tight grip of the woman's purse, the silent dignity of the couple standing side by side. "I think you owe my wife an apology," Tyrone said, voice even but edged with steel. "And if you can't do that, you're welcome to leave. We don't tolerate disrespect in our store." The woman's hand trembled as she clutched her phone. "You people are unbelievable. I'll call the police. You'll see what real trouble looks like." Keisha, voice measured, said, "Please do. Let them come see what's really going on." A chorus of murmurs rippled through the aisles. Jasmine's live stream jumped to 500 viewers. Comments scrolled by in a blur. "Not in 2025. She's brave. Black woman magic. Protect our sisters." The woman spun on her heel, stalking toward the exit, muttering about never coming back. Her voice trailed off as the bell rang again, announcing her departure. A hush lingered, broken finally by applause. First one person, then several, then almost everyone. Keisha let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. She glanced at Tyrone, whose jaw was set, eyes soft, as he looked at her. "You okay?" he asked, his hand gently squeezing hers. She nodded. "I'm used to it. Doesn't mean I like it." Darnell approached, phone still in hand. "It's already up to 800 people, Mrs. Barker. They're cheering for you." Leon from the frozen foods came over, clapping Tyrone on the back. "You two handled that with class. Ain't many could do the same." Keisha mustered a weary smile. "Thank you. But it shouldn't have to be like this. Not in our own store." Outside, the woman lingered on the sidewalk, shouting into her phone. A squad car rolled past, slowing as if curious, but then continued down the block. Inside, life began to resume. A little girl asked Keisha where the animal crackers were, an older couple paid for their groceries, and Darnell rang up customers with a new spring in his step. In the parking lot, Jasmine's stream continued. "Y'all, Barker's Market isn't just another store. This is what standing up looks like." By noon, the incident was everywhere, shared in group chats, posted on Facebook, and tweeted with hashtags like #respect for Keisha and #Barker's Market strong. Keisha's face, calm in the midst of confrontation, became the cover photo for 1,000 posts. Inside the break room, Keisha finally sat, phone buzzing with messages. Tyrone brought her a mug of sweet tea, sitting beside her in silence. "You know it's not over, right?" he said quietly. She nodded. "I know, but I'm not running from this. Not in my own store." He wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "Whatever comes next, we handle it together." In the store, Aaliyah's mother handed Keisha a handwritten note. Thank you for showing my daughter what courage looks like. Darnell brought over his phone. The viewer count now over 1,000. You broke the internet, Mrs. Barker. Keisha managed a soft laugh, the first real one since the morning began. All I did was stand my ground. Tyrone looked at her with pride. Sometimes that's all it takes to change everything. The camera panned out. A small-town store on an ordinary Monday, forever changed by an act of everyday courage. Monday, 12:15 p.m. News in Oak Ridge usually traveled at the speed of word of mouth, but today the news moved at the speed of Wi-Fi. The encounter at Barker's Market had barely finished echoing off the old tin ceiling before it exploded across social media. Darnell, still in his cashier's apron, hovered over the checkout, phone screen alight with the viral video. His hands shook with adrenaline. The video, uploaded less than an hour ago, was climbing past 3,000 views every 5 minutes. Jasmine's Instagram Live, shot from the snack aisle, racked up 17,000 replays before she could even grab a sandwich for lunch. Keisha sat behind the counter, her phone vibrating non-stop. Text messages, notifications, and voicemails. Most were supportive, a few were angry. The store's official Facebook page received a deluge of comments. I'll never shop anywhere else. Just came by to show my support, Mrs. Barker. Proud to live in Oak Ridge because of people like you. But with every message of solidarity came a shadow, anonymous calls, troll comments, even one email with the subject line, "You people don't belong here." Tyrone read it, jaw clenched, and deleted it without telling Keisha. The phone at the front desk rang again. Keisha picked up. "Barker's Market, this is Keisha." The voice was unfamiliar, southern and gravelly. "You handled that just right, ma'am. We're with you." The line clicked dead before she could respond. Tyrone watched her from the produce section. "You okay?" he asked quietly as she hung up. Keisha forced a smile. "I'm fine, just overwhelmed. It's like we're living in a glass house." Tyrone nodded. "We always have been, honey. Today just got brighter." 1:10 p.m. Outside, a local reporter for Channel 7 stood by the entrance, microphone in hand. Her crew pointed cameras at the store sign. Inside, Darnell was on the phone with his mother, excitedly recounting every detail. "Mama, I'm telling you, Keisha was calm the whole time. The woman just lost it. Mr. Barker stood up, told her that was his wife. You should have seen her face. She stormed out like the devil was chasing her." The back room felt like a war room. Jasmine perched on a crate, her phone open to Twitter. The hashtag # stand with Keisha was trending regionally. She scrolled through memes, remixes, and video edits, set to trap beats. "Mrs. Barker, you're a legend now," she said, half joking, half awed. Keisha shook her head. "I didn't want this. I just wanted to run my store." Jasmine grinned. "Yeah, but you did something bigger. You showed us all how to stand up." At the register, a white woman in her 70s approached, nervous but determined. Her voice trembled as she said, "I saw what happened online. I'm so sorry. If my grandkids ever acted like that, I'd march them down here to apologize myself." Keisha's eyes softened. "Thank you, ma'am. That means a lot." The woman squeezed her hand. "You're braver than most." 1:45 p.m. By early afternoon, the parking lot overflowed. Some customers came in for groceries. Others just wanted to shake Keisha's hand. Nia, Keisha, and Tyrone's 11-year-old daughter helped bag produce with quiet pride. A group of college students arrived from the State University in matching Black Student Union t-shirts, filming a Day of Support video. They bought up boxes of fresh fruit, posing with Keisha and Tyrone for a group selfie. Jasmine's TikTok story caught the moment, captioned, "This is what allyship looks like." Inside, the energy buzzed with a strange cocktail of joy, relief, and tension. For every 5 friendly faces, There was one tight-lipped stranger watching from the corner, phone out, not smiling. Darnell kept the music upbeat. Marvin Gaye, Aretha Franklin, Beyoncé, each song a tiny act of resistance and celebration. 2:20 p.m. Not everyone was pleased. The phone rang again. This time the voice was low, hostile. "You people think you own the place. This is still our town. Don't forget it." Keisha's hand trembled as she set the receiver down. She didn't mention the call to anyone. Instead, she focused on the line at the counter, the steady rhythm of scanning and bagging, the everyday labor that kept her grounded. Tyrone noticed the tension in her shoulders. He came over, leaned close. "We can close early. Let things settle down." Keisha shook her head. "Number, if we close, they win. This is our home, Ty. We're not leaving." Tyrone smiled, pride shining in his eyes. "That's my girl." 3 p.m. The mayor's office called. Mayor Harold Brooks was on the line, his voice heavy with concern and support. "Keisha, Tyrone, I want you to know you've got the full support of this town. If you need anything, extra patrols, community support, let us know. I'll be there tomorrow myself to show my face." Keisha thanked him. "We're all right, Mr. Mayor, just shaken. It means a lot, though." Brooks hesitated. "We all saw the video. Oak Ridge can't go back to how things were. Let me know if you want to make a statement or not. I'll follow your lead." She hung up, sighing deeply. 3:25 p.m. Back in the snack aisle, Jasmine was fielding DMs from all over the country. "How do I support the Barkers? Are y'all safe? Wish my parents could see this." Jasmine replied to as many as she could. "Come to Barkers. Spend your money here. Tell your friends. This is how we protect our own." A crowd gathered outside, some curious, others just hoping for a soundbite or selfie. Darnell propped open the front door, greeting everyone with a wide grin. A white man in overalls, Earl, shuffled up to the counter, buying nothing. "Saw what happened," he said, voice low. "Some folks in this town got ugly hearts. You and Mr. Barker got nothing to be ashamed of." Keisha smiled. "Thank you, Earl. I appreciate it." Earl nodded, eyes downcast, then shuffled out as quietly as he'd entered. 4 p.m. Tyrone gathered the staff in the break room. Darnell, Jasmine, 2 part-time clerks named Sean and Malik, and his younger cousin, Ray. "I want y'all to know how proud I am," he began. "This isn't the first time something like this happened. It probably won't be the last, but we did what was right. We stood together." Darnell nodded, his voice tight. "They're going to talk about us for a long time, Mr. Barker." Tyrone nodded. "Let them, but we keep running our store the way we always have, with respect." Sean, soft-spoken but fierce, added, "We got your back, Mr. and Mrs. Barker, all of us." Keisha's eyes glistened. "Thank you, all of you. I couldn't do this alone." Ray, only 16, grinned. "Nobody's coming for Barkers, not while I'm here." Laughter broke the tension. 5 p.m. At home, Keisha sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug of chamomile tea. Tyrone stood behind her, gently rubbing her shoulders. Their daughter, Nia, sat on the floor, coloring pictures for her parents. On the TV, news anchors debated the reality of racism in America's small towns. Tyrone flipped off the screen. "Enough of that. Let's just have dinner." Keisha smiled, grateful for the moment of normalcy. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was her cousin Denise from Chicago. "Girl, you're on the news up here," Denise said, laughter in her voice. "You handled that mess better than I ever could have." Keisha chuckled. "I didn't have a choice." Denise grew serious. "You did have a choice. You chose dignity. The world needed to see that." Keisha blinked back tears. "Thanks, cousin." 6:45 p.m. Evening brought a fresh wave of attention. A black pastor from the neighborhood church called, offering prayer and support. Members of the local mosque and synagogue sent notes of solidarity, Old classmates scattered across the country messaged Keisha, "Saw you on the news, proud of you." Tyrone scrolled through the endless stream of messages. "It's overwhelming," he admitted. Keisha looked out the window at the quiet street, shadows falling as the sun slipped behind the oaks. "I just hope something good comes out of it, for Naya, for all our kids." Tyrone hugged her close. "It already has. You gave them an example to follow." 8 p.m. Online, the story had gone national. News networks replayed the cell phone videos. Opinion writers called for community healing. Talk radio hosts debated whether racism was alive and well in Oak Ridge. Darnell texted, "Y'all see what Fox News just said? Reverse racism in Georgia store? Man, they don't even know the half." Keisha rolled her eyes. Let them talk. But the pressure was building. Messages of hate multiplied in her inbox, sometimes thinly veiled, sometimes direct. Tyrone began to worry. Maybe it's time to call the police, at least let them know what's happening. Keisha hesitated. "Not yet. I don't want to give anyone the satisfaction." He nodded, but kept the sheriff's number on speed dial. Tuesday, 7:45 a.m. The next morning, the line outside Barker's Market started before sunrise. News vans lined the street, their antennas piercing the sky. Supporters brought flowers, cards, and baked goods. Local activists handed out flyers for a Buy Black Day. Inside, the staff moved briskly. Keisha gave a short pep talk, her nerves masked by her steady voice. "We do what we always do. We take care of our customers. We take care of each other. That's how we win." By 9 a.m., the store was packed. Tyrone ran the register, Darnell stocked shelves, and Jasmine coordinated deliveries with volunteers from the college. Ray kept watch at the door, clipboard in hand. A local radio station played interviews with customers. "Keisha Barker is the best thing about Oak Ridge. People forget she's been helping this community for years. You want to fight racism? Shop at Barker's." Noon. Mayor Brooks arrived, trailed by a cadre of city officials and reporters. He hugged Keisha at the entrance, posed for a photo with Tyrone, and gave a brief speech. "This is what Oak Ridge is about," he declared, his voice ringing. "Standing together, supporting our neighbors, making it clear, hate has no home here." Applause filled the store. Keisha, red-eyed but smiling, thanked the mayor and shook hands with city council members. Tyrone stood at her side, quiet but fiercely proud. Local clergy organized an impromptu prayer circle in the parking lot. Protesters, maybe 20, waving American flags, shouted at the cameras. Police officers kept a wary eye on the crowd, but intervened only when a shouting match threatened to boil over. 3 p.m. Jasmine, still documenting everything on Instagram, caught Keisha in a quiet moment by the freezer. "You good, Mrs. Barker?" she asked, camera off for once. Keisha sighed, shoulders slumping. "I'm tired, baby, but I'm grateful. I've never felt so seen in my life, or so exposed." Jasmine nodded. "You're making history, you know." Keisha smiled, shaking her head. "I didn't ask for this. I just wanted to work in peace." Jasmine put a hand on her arm. "Sometimes you don't get to choose, but you still get to decide how you carry it." Keisha squeezed her hand. "Thank you, sweetheart." Evening as dusk settled, Tyrone closed up shop. He and Keisha stood outside, watching as a few remaining reporters packed up their gear. "You think it'll ever go back to normal?" Keisha asked. Tyrone slipped an arm around her. "Maybe, maybe not. But whatever happens, we built this place with our own hands. Nobody can take that away from us." Their daughter Nia ran up, waving a drawing. "Look, Mama, I drew our store. I made you a superhero." Keisha knelt, hugging her tight. "That's the best thing I've seen all week." Inside the store, Darnell stacked the final box of produce, whistling softly. Jasmine texted her followers, "Mrs. Barker is the real MVP. If you ever feel alone, remember her story." As the sun dipped below the horizon, Barker's Market glowed in the streetlights, a symbol of quiet resistance, everyday courage, and a community forever changed by a single moment of truth. Friday, 8:12 a.m. 3 days after the viral incident, Oak Ridge's sleepy Main Street was wide awake. The usually ignored town square was bustling with more than just Friday market traffic. The storefronts gleamed, some with hand-painted "We Stand with Keisha" signs, others with flags in their windows, signaling quiet support or wary curiosity. Inside Barker's Market, Tyrone moved with purpose, preparing for the day. He was up at dawn, his mind racing with lists, deliveries, security checks, interviews he and Keisha had politely declined. Their old phone line had crashed under the volume of calls, forcing them to switch to a cell phone as their public hotline. It rang every 20 minutes with journalists, activists, pastors, and even a state senator. Keisha stood at the back window, gazing out at the line forming before opening time. The crowd was a mixture: students, retirees, young parents with strollers, reporters clutching microphones, and neighbors she'd known since childhood. For the first time in her life, she felt more observed than present. She breathed deeply, straightened her yellow apron, and headed out to unlock the door. 8:28 a.m. Darnell was at the counter, flipping through the register tape. His phone vibrated with push notifications. Another viral remix, this one set to Kendrick Lamar's "All Right." Jasmine bounced in, fresh from an early morning news spot at the local radio station. She flashed a peace sign at Keisha. "You ready for today?" Jasmine asked, her energy infectious. Keisha mustered a smile. "As ready as I'll ever be, I guess." The first customers poured in, some making small talk, others simply shopping. But each interaction felt heavier now, charged with meaning. One white woman, a stranger, pressed Keisha's hand and said, "You changed things." "I'm proud to be your neighbor." Keisha thanked her, tucking the moment away like a keepsake. 9:03 a.m. The mayor's car pulled up, American flag fluttering from its antenna. Mayor Harold Brooks, a sturdy black man in his late 50s, stepped out and shook hands with Tyrone on the sidewalk. "Y'all holding up?" the mayor asked, concern softening his deep voice. Tyrone nodded. "We're hanging in. Keisha's the strongest person I know." Brooks grinned. "She's strong, but nobody should have to carry this much. I came to ask, are you sure you want to go through with the council meeting?" Keisha stepped out, standing beside her husband. "I'm sure. I've got things to say." Brooks patted her on the back. "All right then, let's make sure they listen." 10:02 a.m. At Town Hall, the Oak Ridge Business Council was already packed. Fold-out chairs filled the chambers, and more people stood along the walls. Local business owners, bank managers, pastors, and teachers filled every seat. TV cameras from 3 networks crowded the rear, their red lights blinking. 2 sheriff's deputies stood at the back, arms crossed, eyes wary. The council president, Greg Whitman, a tall white man with a neatly trimmed beard and a reputation for never taking sides, called the meeting to order. "We have an unusual crowd today," he said, peering over his glasses. "Let's try to keep things respectful." Keisha sat in the front row, flanked by Tyrone and Mayor Brooks. Jasmine was 2 seats over, streaming the event to her 20,000 Instagram followers. Darnell sat behind, notebook open, scribbling every word. Whitman cleared his throat. "We're here today because an incident at Barker's Market brought national attention to our town. Before we go further, I'd like Mrs. Barker to speak." A hush fell. Keisha rose, smoothing her skirt, feeling every eye on her as she walked to the microphone. For a heartbeat, she wanted to run. Then she remembered her daughter's drawing her as a superhero and drew strength from it. She spoke, voice steady. I grew up in Oak Ridge. My daddy built houses here and my mother taught Sunday school. I never thought I'd stand here as a news story. All I ever wanted was to work hard, raise my daughter, and run a business with my husband. But last week someone told me right here in my own town that I didn't belong. Her eyes scanned the room. Some faces sympathetic, some hard to read. What happened at Barker's wasn't new. It's happened to me before and to people like me. The only thing different this time was that it got caught on camera. Now the whole world is watching how Oak Ridge responds. What we do next says who we are. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Darnell's pen raced. Jasmine's chat exploded. Let her talk. Preach, Mrs. Barker, Keisha continued. I'm not here for pity. I don't want revenge. I want change. I want this town to be as good as it says it is. Not just on paper, not just for the cameras, for all of us. Whitman nodded. Thank you, Mrs. Barker. The council has received a proposal for an anti-bias training initiative for all businesses. We'll open the floor for discussion. 10:20 a.m. The first person to speak was Mrs. Ruth Ann Howard, an 82-year-old white woman who ran the flower shop next door to Barker's. She shuffled to the microphone, her voice quivering. I've lived here since 1957. My husband and I shopped at Barker's before you could buy margarine in a tub. What happened to Keisha isn't new and it isn't right. If we can make it better, we should. Applause broke out and a few council members wiped away tears. A young black teacher, Mr. Isaiah Franklin, spoke next. My students watched the video in homeroom. Some of them said, "That's my mom, that's my auntie." I want them to see that adults can fix what's broken. The room nodded. Someone in the back whispered, "That's what it's all about." A bank manager, Chris Jenkins, voiced a concern. I'm all for training, but who's going to pay for it? My margins are thin as it is. Mayor Brooks replied, the city's got a grant. Nobody's asking you to shoulder the cost alone. Another owner, Dale Robbins, a white man in his 60s who ran the hardware store, grumbled, folks just want to stir up trouble. The news will move on, and we'll be right back where we started. A wave of discomfort passed through the crowd. Keisha didn't flinch. Jasmine's chat blew up. Old boy doesn't get it. Same attitude everywhere. Whitman banged his gavel. Let's keep it civil. 11:10 a.m. The public comments stretched for over an hour. A parade of voices, black, white, Latino, old and young, spoke their truths. Some echoed Keisha's call for change. Others expressed anxiety or outright denial. A local pastor, Reverend Calvin Lewis, ended the debate with a simple benediction. When one of us is mistreated, all of us are wounded. If Oak Ridge wants to heal, let it start here. With the speeches finished, Whitman called for a vote. A message arrived in Keisha's inbox from a black business owner in Tulsa. You made us all proud. You made them listen. We're following your lead. Keisha closed her eyes, feeling the weight and the wonder of it all. She whispered a prayer of thanks. Saturday, 9 a.m. The next morning, Barker's Market was quieter, but the new mural, Respect for All, had been painted overnight by local artists. Tyrone and Keisha stood together, arm in arm, admiring it as the sun rose. Darnell snapped a photo, sending it to Jasmine for her feed. Oak Ridge, Georgia, where we stand together. As customers arrived, some paused to touch the mural, as if drawing strength from it. Keisha greeted each one by name, her voice stronger than ever. Monday, 7:02 a.m. Oak Ridge, Georgia, had never seen a Monday like this. The sun rose over tidy porches, illuminating clusters of news vans, out-of-town cars, and the ever-present mural on Barker's Market, Respect for All. It was only a week since the incident, but it felt like a year. Inside the store, Keisha made coffee for the staff. The new routine included checking security feeds, a quiet prayer, and running down a list of interviews emails, and invitations. Tyrone set out the bread delivery while Naya finished her homework at the break room table, waving to her parents each time she caught them glancing over. Darnell, who had once grumbled about the early shift, now whistled as he adjusted displays. His TikTok had exploded, over 200,000 followers, mostly eager to see the behind-the-scenes life of America's bravest black grocer. Jasmine, now known as the girl with the camera, arrived early to help with inventory and brainstorm new ways to share the store's message. The front door opened constantly. Regulars shopped. Out-of-towners asked for selfies, and a school bus unloaded children with a teacher who wanted them to meet the heroes of Oak Ridge. Keisha took it all in, wondering if the world would ever slow down. 9:30 a.m. By mid-morning, the crowd thickened. A group of black business owners from nearby Atlanta entered the store, led by Ms. Loretta Johnson, who ran a bakery in the city. "We saw what y'all did here," she said, hugging Keisha with tears in her eyes. "And we want you to know it matters. We all feel a little braver this week." Tyrone handed out flyers for the new Oak Ridge Minority Business Association, a coalition he and Keisha helped start after local black and Latino business owners gathered to share stories of bias, resilience, and hope. "Change is slow," Tyrone told the group, "but if we stick together, it comes." The store's phone rang again. This time it was a White House staffer. They wanted to invite Keisha and Tyrone to a roundtable on racial equity and entrepreneurship. The idea was both thrilling and terrifying. Keisha covered the mouthpiece. "Ty, you ever imagine we'd get this kind of call?" He laughed, shaking his head. "Nope, but I'm glad we did." 11:20 a.m. In the town hall, Mayor Brooks, Jasmine, and members of the new youth council met with school principals and local clergy. Their goal: turn the moment into a movement. Plans for a summer leadership camp, anti-bias curriculum, and a speaker series started taking shape. "We're planting seeds," Jasmine explained to a local reporter. "It won't all grow at once, but it'll change things for the next generation." National media picked up the story, hounding the Barkers for statements. Keisha gave only one to a local black-owned newspaper. Her words were picked up and quoted everywhere. "We're not perfect. We're not unique. But we want Oak Ridge to be a place where every child feels safe, every business gets a fair shot, and every family belongs." 12:55 p.m. An official from the Georgia Chamber of Commerce visited the market. His suit was crisp, his handshake careful. "We want to use your story as a training model," he told Keisha and Tyrone. "Would you be willing to come speak at our statewide summit?" Keisha exchanged a look with Tyrone and Jasmine, then nodded. "If you're willing to listen, we're willing to talk. But this isn't just about us. Let's get more voices in the room." The chamber rep agreed, promising to sponsor an equity and entrepreneurship workshop and to fund small business grants for Oak Ridge and other rural communities. 2:15 p.m. The microloan fund Keisha and Tyrone started began to receive donations from across the country. An anonymous gift of $25,000 came from a grateful mother in New Jersey. Another $10,000 from a retired teacher who believes in you. The fund's board, Darnell, Jasmine, Ms. Loretta, and Mr. Charles, vetted applications from barbers, food truck owners, mechanics, and artists. Keisha took a call from a young woman, Charisse, who dreamed of opening a daycare in the next town over. "I'm scared," Charisse admitted. "What if they treat me like they treated you?" Keisha replied, "You keep your head up. Remember who you are, and if they try it, you let us know. We'll be there for you however we can." 3:50 p.m. A panel of experts, historians, sociologists, business analysts visited Barkers for a documentary taping. Cameras rolled as customers shopped, chatted, and offered their stories. The documentary crew followed Tyrone to a local supplier, capturing his negotiations with a white farmer, Mr. Harlan, who'd initially hesitated to do business with black owners. "I was wrong about them," Mr. Harlan admitted on camera. "They run a tighter ship than most folks I know." Later, the director asked Keisha, "What do you want viewers to remember?" She thought for a moment, then said, "I want them to see that ordinary people can change their world, not with anger, but with action." 6 p.m., national organizations began to reach out. The NAACP, Urban League, and several faith groups invited the Barkers to events, offered resources, and featured the market in their publications. The local high school asked Keisha to deliver the commencement address. Nia, proud and shy, bragged to her classmates that, "My mama is gonna be on stage." Tyrone received a call from an old friend, Ronald, who had left Oak Ridge years before. "Man, you don't know what you started. Folks back in Mississippi and Alabama are watching you. You've given people hope, Ty." Tyrone smiled, a bit overwhelmed by the idea. "Just doing what I was raised to do, Ron. Take care of my family and my people." 8:25 p.m. After closing, the staff gathered for dinner in the break room. Keisha's homemade gumbo and a loaf of bread from Ms. Loretta's bakery. They talked about the week, the anxiety, the exhaustion, the support, the new sense of community. Malik, one of the part-timers, spoke up. "I was scared to come in at first, after what happened. But now I feel like I'm part of something real, like maybe I can make a difference too." Jasmine smiled, nudging Malik's shoulder. "You already are." Darnell raised his glass of sweet tea. "To Barkers, to family, to change." They clinked glasses, laughter and hope, filling the small room. Tuesday, 7 a.m. Keisha and Tyrone traveled to Atlanta for their first big speaking event at the State Chamber Summit. The drive felt surreal. Oak Ridge in the rear view, Atlanta's skyline ahead, the weight of expectation pressing in. Keisha wore her favorite blazer, Nia's drawing of her as a superhero tucked in her bag for courage. Tyrone drove, hands steady, but his heart pounding. In the convention hall, they were greeted by applause from hundreds of business owners, politicians, and activists. Keisha spoke honestly, her voice carrying over the crowd. "We didn't choose this spotlight, it found us. But I know there are people here today who feel invisible in their own towns. My advice? Keep going. Stand together. You don't have to change the whole world, just your corner of it." Tyrone added, "Support each other. Shop local, buy black, listen to your neighbors. That's how you build something that lasts." Their speech was interrupted by a standing ovation. Reporters rushed forward, eager for interviews, but Keisha waved them off, giving the spotlight to a group of Latina entrepreneurs at the next table. "This is our time, but it's not only about us," she said. "Let's lift everyone up." 1:10 p.m. Back in Oak Ridge, the store ran on autopilot. Darnell managed the register, Jasmine organized volunteers, and Ms. Loretta delivered fresh muffins to the staff. Customers posted photos with the mural, using number Respect for All and number Barker's Market Change on every platform. A local reporter filmed a feature about Nia's superhero mom, and Nia giggled, bashful at her newfound fame. "She's just my mom," she told the camera, "but I think she's everybody's hero now." The Oak Ridge Youth Council expanded, adding members from rival towns. They launched a mentorship program with Keisha and Jasmine, leading workshops on leadership, public speaking, and entrepreneurship. 4 p.m. In the weeks that followed, the ripple effect continued. Other towns across Georgia, some supportive, some skeptical, asked for copies of Oak Ridge's new anti-bias policies and training modules. The mayor received invitations to speak at conferences about how a small town found its voice. Businesses that had once ignored or quietly resented the Barkers now partnered with them, eager to attract the positive attention. Some did it out of fear, some out of hope. But the effect was the same. Doors opened, conversations started, and the atmosphere changed. Not every story was smooth. A bakery down the street received anonymous threats for participating in the Buy Black weekend. The high school principal faced angry calls from parents who resented the new equity curriculum. But those voices, loud as they were outnumbered by the support. Jasmine's Instagram became a place for sharing stories, success, struggle, and forgiveness. She moderated discussions on allyship, accountability, and hope, always reminding her audience, if it can happen in Oak Ridge, it can happen anywhere. Saturday, 10:30 a.m. 6 weeks later, the town was transformed. The market was bustling. Shelves displayed products from local Black, Latino, and Asian businesses. The microloan fund had helped open 2 new shops and 1 hair salon, all run by Oak Ridge residents. The town held its first Minority Business Expo in the city park. Keisha, Tyrone, Jasmine, and Darnell cut the ribbon, joined by Ms. Loretta, Mr. Charles, Mayor Brooks, and a crowd that stretched farther than the eye could see. Keisha stood on stage, microphone in hand, voice strong. We started out defending our store. Now we're building a better town. This is what happens when we believe in each other. The crowd cheered, music played, vendors sold food and crafts. A sense of real, lasting possibility hung in the air. 3:15 p.m. After the expo, Keisha and Tyrone found a quiet bench beneath the old magnolia trees. You think this will last? Tyrone asked, voice soft. Keisha looked at the mural on a nearby wall, the words, respect for all, bright against the sun. If we keep showing up, if we keep pushing, yeah. Maybe for our kids, it'll be normal. Tyrone nodded, reaching for her hand. I'm glad I get to do this with you. She smiled. Me too. Sunday, 7:45 p.m. That night, Keisha reviewed the latest microloan applications. Charisse, the young woman from the next town, had opened her daycare with their help and sent a photo. Smiling kids, colorful walls, a sign, Charisse's place where every child belongs. Keisha teared up. She forwarded the message to the whole board, captioned, "This is why we keep going." Monday, 6:30 a.m. Oak Ridge's story was featured on Good Morning America. Keisha's interview, spliced with footage from Jasmine and Darnell's videos, played to millions of viewers. The host summed it up. One small town, one ordinary day, one family who refused to back down. Sometimes the ripples start with a single act of courage. The town celebrated, but Keisha kept her focus forward. The work wasn't done. 8:15 a.m. In the break room, Naya handed Keisha another drawing, a picture of Barker's Market surrounded by hearts and smiling faces of all colors. This is what our town looks like now, Nia said, proud. Keisha hugged her tight. That's exactly how I want it to look. Friday, 6:32 a.m. Sunrise over Oak Ridge brought golden light and a quiet sense of anticipation. The town was waking up early, not just for a typical Friday, but for something special, a celebration, a reckoning, an anniversary. Barker's Market glowed under the early sun, the mural even brighter. Respect for all, letters repainted and freshened by a team of volunteers and school children the night before. Inside, Keisha brewed coffee and set out homemade muffins. She moved with practiced calm, but her heart raced. It had been a whole year since the confrontation that set everything in motion. She still remembered every detail, the cold gaze of the customer, the hush in the store, the weight of her own voice as she stood her ground. A moment of humiliation had become the spark for everything that followed. She looked over at Tyrone, who was checking the security system. Their routine was tighter now, more mindful, but not fearful. They were still here. The store was still theirs, and today it would be more full than ever. 7:45 a.m. Nia appeared, dressed in a t-shirt with a cartoon version of her superhero mom and a pair of jeans covered in marker doodles. She beamed at her parents, showing off a poster she'd made for the day. "Thank you, Mrs. Barker. Thank you, Oak Ridge." Keisha hugged her. "You ready to help out today, baby?" Nia nodded, her excitement bubbling over. "Can I give out the stickers?" "Of course," Keisha smiled. "You're our best ambassador." Outside, the line was already forming. Families, students, church groups, and even strangers from other towns. Some clutched homemade signs. Others just wanted to be part of something that had become so much bigger than a market. 8:30 a.m. By opening time, the store was packed. Old faces, new faces, local leaders, and local skeptics. Ms. Loretta from the bakery brought a stack of sweet rolls and gave Keisha a fierce hug. Darnell wore a Team Barker's pin on his apron and organized the crowd with his booming voice. Jasmine, now a freshman at Spelman College, filmed everything for her rapidly growing YouTube channel, narrating with practiced grace. "You're not just witnessing history," Jasmine told her camera. "You're part of it." The town's mayor, Harold Brooks, arrived with members of the city council. The principal of the high school, Mrs. Alvarez, brought a group of students who had written essays about Keisha's courage. Local clergy offered a short prayer of thanksgiving in the parking lot. A banner hung above the door, "1 year strong, building Oak Ridge together." 9:25 a.m. Inside, the energy was electric. Nia handed out heart-shaped stickers reading, "Respect for all to every customer." Each person, young and old, received the same warm smile from Keisha, who greeted them by name whenever she could. Some customers gave her flowers. Others simply whispered, "Thank you." At the front counter, a young white woman in her 20s, Emily, approached with a toddler on her hip. Her eyes were watery as she placed her groceries on the belt. "My son's first words were, 'Hello,' and 'Barkers,'" she said. "We come here every week. What you did, it changed how I raise him. I want him to know everyone belongs." Keisha touched her arm gently. "He's lucky to have a mama like you." 10:40 a.m. By mid-morning, the official celebration began. The mayor stood at a small podium outside, flanked by Keisha and Tyrone, with the mural as their backdrop. Reporters from local, state, and even national news outlets clustered in the crowd. Brooks cleared his throat, his voice booming over the microphone. "Last year, something ugly happened in this town, but what matters is what happened next." Keisha Barker stood tall. Oak Ridge stood with her. And together, we've made this community stronger, kinder, and fairer. Applause rippled through the crowd. Keisha blinked back tears, squeezing Tyrone's hand. Brooks continued, "Because of the Barkers, our town is a model. Because of the Barkers, children here know what courage looks like. Because of the Barkers, Oak Ridge remembers that respect is not just a word on a mural, but a way of life." He turned to Keisha. "Mrs. Barker, will you say a few words?" 10:45 a.m. Keisha stepped forward, the eyes of hundreds upon her. For a split second, she felt the fear she'd known that day a year ago. Then she spotted Nia's beaming face in the crowd, Jasmine waving, Darnell grinning from behind the counter, and Ms. Loretta with tears in her eyes. She spoke, her voice strong. "A year ago, I stood right here and wondered if I'd made a mistake standing up for myself. I worried for my daughter, for my husband, for our business. But what I learned is that you can't choose your moment, only how you meet it. I learned that there's more good than bad in Oak Ridge. I learned that one voice, when joined by many, can drown out even the loudest hate." She paused as the crowd listened, silent and rapt. "We're not perfect, we're still learning, but every time we choose respect, every time we stand together, we're building a future that's bigger than any of us. I'm proud to call Oak Ridge home. I'm proud to be part of this family. Thank you for walking this road with us." The applause was thunderous. Keisha wiped away a tear, her smile radiant. 11:30 a.m. After the speeches, there was food, barbecue, cornbread, pies, and cakes from every grandmother in town. Nia played hopscotch with other children in the parking lot, the mural their backdrop. Adults swapped stories, strangers introduced themselves, and friends embraced. The old divides of Oakridge seemed to fade, replaced with something new and fragile, hope. Jasmine interviewed students about the changes they'd seen. One, a Latino boy named Luis, spoke to her camera. Now, in school, people talk about respect for real. It's not just a poster, it's real. Ms. Loretta handed out bakery samples, her own story of learning, unlearning, and healing, echoing those of many in the crowd. Inside, Darnell managed the register, but took breaks to chat with customers who wanted to tell him how much his video meant to them. "I just wanted people to see what really happens," he told one man. "Didn't think it would go so far." 12:45 p.m. Not everyone celebrated. A small group of protesters gathered at the edge of the parking lot, holding signs. "Keep politics out of business, all lives matter, and don't divide Oakridge." Police kept a gentle watch, but the protest was small, quiet, and mostly ignored by the main event. Keisha saw them, her heart heavy but steady. She turned her attention to the people who had chosen hope, knowing that change, real change, would never please everyone. She felt no anger, just a renewed sense of purpose. 1:30 p.m. After the official event, Keisha joined a roundtable discussion with local teachers, business owners, and faith leaders. The topic, what's next for Oakridge? They discussed expanding the microloan fund for minority entrepreneurs, now with over $400,000 distributed to 19 new businesses. Continuing Buy Black Weekends and mentorship programs. Introducing a scholarship for Oakridge graduates who want to start businesses in their hometown. Creating an annual Respect for All Day with service projects and community forums. Each idea sparked excitement and nervousness, but also a sense of momentum. 2:50 p.m. In the community center, children gathered for an art project. Draw Your Oakridge. Nia drew the market, her family, and the mural. Next to her, a white boy named Carter drew himself playing soccer with friends of all different backgrounds. An Asian girl, Amy, sketched the town park filled with smiling faces. The project would hang in the town hall, a living mosaic of what Oakridge had become. 4:15 p.m. Keisha returned to the store for a quieter moment. She checked on the shelves, straightened a display, and stepped out to greet a customer, a new family who had just moved to Oakridge from out of state. "Everyone told us, you gotta meet Mrs. Barker," the mother said, shaking Keisha's hand. "Now I see why." Keisha smiled. "Welcome to Oakridge. You're home now." 5:45 p.m. As the day wound down, Tyrone and Keisha locked up together. Nia skipped ahead, tired but happy. They walked home in the golden evening light, passing neighbors, friends, and strangers who greeted them with warmth. The town felt different, softer, stronger, more awake. At home, Nia fell asleep quickly, the poster she'd made clutched in her hand. Keisha and Tyrone sat on the porch, the night breeze gentle. "Did you ever think it would go this far?" Tyrone asked, his voice hushed. Keisha shook her head. I just wanted to stand my ground, but I'm glad it did." Tyrone took her hand. "You're my hero, you know." She smiled. "You're mine." Saturday, 8:20 a.m. The next morning, Keisha checked her email. There were messages from business owners in other states, from activists, from teachers using the Barker's Market story in their classrooms. One from a black woman in Ohio read, "Because of you, I finally opened my own cafe. We had our first customer today. Thank you for showing me it's possible." Another from a white pastor in Texas, Your story inspired my congregation to launch a community market. We want to be a place where everyone feels safe. Tears filled Keisha's eyes. She shared the messages with Tyrone and Nia over breakfast. You changed more than just Oak Ridge, Tyrone said. Keisha hugged them both. We did this together. 10:30 a.m. National News ran a segment, The Oak Ridge Story, 1 year later. Footage showed the mural, the bustling market, Nia's artwork, Jasmine's interviews, and scenes from the anniversary celebration. The closing line, sometimes the world changes not in grand gestures but in simple acts of courage, dignity, and community. Oak Ridge reminds us all, respect is where healing begins. 12:15 p.m. The Microloan Funds Board met at Barker's Market, now including new members from diverse backgrounds and neighborhoods. Charisse, the young daycare owner, attended via video call, proudly showing her full classroom. I owe it all to you, she said. Keisha shook her head. You did the work, Charisse. We just helped open the door. 2 p.m. As afternoon sunlight streamed in, Keisha sat at the counter reflecting. She thought of that day, 1 year ago, the fear, the anger, and then the moment of resolve. She thought of every hand she'd shaken, every child she'd encouraged, every email she'd read. A customer approached, an elderly black man with a slow, steady walk. He looked at her, eyes shining. You know, Mrs. Barker, I lived through things I hoped my grandchildren would never see. But you showed them that we can still move forward. Thank you. She took his hand, humbled and grateful. Thank you for paving the way. 4 p.m. Darnell and Jasmine called the whole staff to the mural for a group photo. Ms. Loretta brought out cupcakes decorated with RESPECT in blue icing. The camera clicked. Smiles were wide, arms draped over shoulders, new and old faces all together. Jasmine posted the photo online with the caption, We're still here, we're still standing. Oak Ridge, this is for you. Within an hour, it had thousands of likes, shares, and comments from people near and far. King Leaks, 15 p.m. As the celebration drew to a close, Keisha, Tyrone, and Nia stood quietly before the mural. Nia asked, Mama, will the world always be like this? Keisha knelt beside her. The world can be hard, but there's always good too. And every time we choose respect, every time we stand together, we make it better. Nia nodded, thoughtful. 7:30 p.m. After dinner, Keisha sat on the porch alone, the cool air soothing. She remembered the early days, nights spent worrying about money, about safety, about belonging. She thought of all the times she had nearly quit, nearly shrank back, nearly silenced herself. But she hadn't. She'd stood her ground. And by doing so, she'd helped a whole town stand up straighter. She closed her eyes, whispering thanks for her family, for her community, for the chance to have made a difference. Tyrone joined her, slipping an arm around her shoulders. Together, they watched the stars come out over Oak Ridge, content in the knowledge that while the world would never be perfect, they had changed a corner of it forever. Inside, the market's lights glowed. Outside, the mural shone. In the hearts of everyone who'd heard the story, respect and hope had found a permanent home. If you've been moved by this story, share it with someone who needs hope, courage, or a reminder that standing up matters. Tell us in the comments, when was the last time you stood up for what's right? What does respect mean in your life? Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that prove dignity and kindness can change the world. Together, one community at a time, we can make a difference.